running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. Good morning, BigBeat. Are you now the most famous investor in the world?
No, I don't think I am at all. Yeah, I can tell you that much. But I can tell you that watching CNBC over the weekend as well, a couple of big things happened over the weekend, right? Three things I think that exactly. I think the first one we got to talk about is Warren Buffett stepping down. Look, if anybody, I started seeing people surprised on the internet, that connected tube thing, right? Give me a break. If you did not know Warren Buffett at 96 years old was going to step down,
at some
and
point,
Greg,
yeah. I mean, whether it was in January next year, I mean, he quite honestly wanted to do it earlier.
Yeah, he did. But I don't think Greg Abel was ready, and I don't think Alan Jane was prepared. But Greg Abel is very capable. That's why you only seen Berkshire down a couple of points, right? I don't think anything was there. The second thing I think we saw over the week, listening to Warren Buffett talk about all of the things that he was talking about, and we can go through this in discussion. I think you and I should discuss this. But one thing he kept saying was, do not use tariffs as a weapon, right? That is wrong. He said, we're going down the wrong path. Do you know out of the top 10 billionaires in the United States, the only billionaire that made money is Warren Buffett? That's right. Second thing, I think
I think it's pretty important to talk about, the $350 billion elephant in the room, right? They didn't spend really any money. They're sitting on $347 billion. That's what you said you wanted to see. You talked to me about it last 2 weeks. What did Buffett buy? Not a lot. What he.
Well, wait a minute. But it was very interesting to me. I don't know if you know how it works in Omaha, Nebraska, but there's a lottery. People put their name in the lottery, and in the top 15 people are picked to 20 people are picked to ask a question. And one question that was asked out of the blue was, okay, so you've got all this money. Was there a company that you were interested in, and would you be willing to name it? And he goes, yes, there was a company that we were going after, and no, I won't name it. And he said, I won't name it, right? He was whale hunting. I think he is whale hunting. That's what he calls it, whale hunting. That's why I'm saying it. I think he is.
I'm going to go through with what we do know as opposed to the unknown. So Japanese trading houses talked a lot about them, reaffirmed his commitment, said these should be 50-year holds for you. This should be part of every person's long-term investing portfolio. Right. Just couldn't have been more bullish. I've talked about it here. I do hold states in my long-term holding, and 2 of the 5. I don't have enough money for all 5 yet. I'll work my way up there. And then my next huge takeaway, Constellation Brands, first time he has jumped into booze, basically, except for a small stake he did in Diageo at one time, and a pretty significant stake in it. That's surprising to me because we know beer, right, has been beaten up in the U.S., but this follows what Buffett does, right? He looks for beaten down things. He must think beer is going to be cyclic.
He said, look, the reason I have money is a reason because I want to make sure that I'm prepared. He said, it's not a lot of money, $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion, not a lot of money. I mean, yeah, to you and me, that's a lot of money, right? He doesn't think in that aspect. He thinks longer term. He thinks in a way that I want to own. That's what we're trying to tell everybody here. It's about owning. It's about creating wealth.
And when you look at his brands, they're not sexy. Domino's Pizza, another one that they increased their stake in, made it clear they just think it has a strong franchise model, great global presence, and it's going to withstand it. The one that always gets me that I do think that he did mess up a little bit is the Sirius XM Holdings. They added 2.3 million shares now. They hold 119.8, 35% of that company.
So if he owns 35% of the company, what point does he want to buy the rest of it, right? Yeah. And to me, whale hunting could be very interesting there, right? It's a cash cow for him. It's not the best because there are some bloated areas of this. Look, a guy owns Dairy Queen, a guy owns Coca-Cola stock. He can't.
That's his biggest things. The other takeaway is, while you've gotten hot on Apple, he is not.
He's
They
right.
sold 2/3 of their long-term Apple holding, which was, I believe, their most successful holdings ever.
He said that. I said, Tim Cook's smarter than me. He said that, right?
Hey, he said he expressed his admiration for him. He just doesn't think it's a value. You know what I also thought was interesting? He refuses to accept that that's a tech stock. He says it's a consumer durable.
He's right. And
it is to a point, but I mean, come on.
I've been saying the same damn thing myself. I don't think that Apple is innovating. I think they're taking other ideas and cleaning it up and putting a pretty penny on it, right? I don't think Apple is innovating, right? What? A new chip that's gonna be the best chip that we've ever had. Oh, okay, thanks, Tim. We have an okay, I get all these things that they're building, but it's not new. They're not innovating. They're cleaning it up, putting a new lipstick on a pig and selling it, and people are eating it up. I agree with that. And you know what? That lipstick on a pig, come September, I might be taking that new version, right? I just downloaded the new version of Google's 7th version for my phone, and I'm not impressed by it. I'm like, okay, it's got pretty pictures and a new icon. That's what people want. I want innovation. Take me to the next level of all of this, right? Show me the AR side. Show me the AI side. Show me the VR side of this. That's what I'm looking for. And I didn't see that. All right, I think the second thing we need to talk about happened over the weekend, and I hate to mention it up, but we've been talking about this. We talked about Steve Flanagan last week, is war. Iran is ratcheting up the saber rattling, and I think we're also seeing that in Israel as well. We're also seeing
Israel
that
announced that they are going to take control of Gaza. So they are
that is
going to
correct.
manage it. They're going to manage the aid. I don't actually have it where I was not happy last week, as you know, here, as an American Jew who supports Israel almost unwavering. I am happy with this decision because I don't think we can trust outsiders to do this and to make sure Hamas doesn't take back their foothold.
So then what do we do with the settlements that are in Gaza from the Palestinians?
They still have their areas. What we need to do is we need to get an international group led by the Saudis and some of the others to take control of this, but they've so far been unwilling to step up. I'm hoping our president here in the U.S. with his strong Middle Eastern envoy, the only envoy to really get an agreement between the Saudis and the Israelis, right? Last time he was in power, can do something to get that in place. Because that's what we need. I don't want Israel there long term.
But how are you looking
at a way that aid can get in and people can be fed? And
I agree.
We can't allow Hamas to use that money and that power for themselves. So I actually, I am, I wish it was all over and we had like I said, I wish the rest of the Middle East would step up and take control of Gaza.
You would think that if this was the case, especially in the side of OPEC, that oil would not be at $57 a barrel, right? That silver wouldn't be at $32.57 and gold now $3,300. So back to $3,300. So people are nervous, right? There was some profit taking over the weekend in Bitcoin, and so I think there's a little bit of liquidity issues there. I think we talked about that. But when I'm looking at the macro picture of this, we've not got clarity in this yet. I think there's even more muddying the waters with what Israel is talking about doing, because I don't know that I don't think Hamas and the PLO is going to allow this to happen. I think that's going to ratchet up.
They're going to have a chance. They're going to have a choice. I mean, they're going in. They're going in scorched earth. Unfortunately, that's what I don't like. I don't like scorched earth. But I think and again. There hasn't been any talk, but the president hasn't said a word about this, which means he's green lighted it. Because otherwise he'd be all over this, right? This has to stop. This has to stop. So, and that's what worries me. So the U.S. is back in Israel in this play. And like I said, listen, like you said, this is an overhang. That's definitely the overhang on the market. And it's funny because with Mr. Flanagan, who will not be in today, just so you know, he's traveling. I forgot to tell you before we came on. He thought that good news would be this weekend. And I always get nervous whenever we think, there's a side that the news is going to come out on, because this was it. The one that I was worried about, which is war. And I'm not trying to take any kind of victory lap. I'm not happy with it at all. And the other part is the president did speak, and again, not what we want to hear, right? This, you talked about this in the past, Steve. 100% tariff on foreign produced films now. Has
Stupid.
Netflix down
Absolutely stupid.
4.9%, Disney down 3%, Warner Brother Discovery, Paramount, Amazon, all down on this news. So I have two questions. If we've seen this pump back that you talked about last week, where tariffs are eventually going to be gone, so you want to buy stuff. If tariffs are going to be gone, am I buying Netflix down 5% today?
Yeah, it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Like I said, you like to buy stupid selling, right? When you see it.
I do. I like to be the guy at the ticker, right? Thank you very much for being dumb.
Is this one interesting you, or the mouse at 3 down 3?
No, I think gotta wait on it now. It's
Okay.
unfortunate. I'll tell you. Listen, I've said this a lot, right? When I ask people what is the number one export of the United States, people can't answer that correctly. Most times they don't know, right? The number one export of the United States has been and will be media. It's software media, it's TV media, it's streaming.
Services and media, right? That is where
we talked about
it's the stuff that doesn't show up in the trades and numbers.
That's right. And when we talked about Netflix, I said, look, the reason Netflix is going up is because they're buying international film. It's cheaper to do that and bring it over here.
Absolutely.
Mr. President, you want film to be made here. Look, a lot of people don't realize this, but Georgia is becoming the next California because it's cheap to produce movies there. Walking Dead was completely produced there. You think about it, they have a whole film division. These states that have good tax systems for people, right? You don't state income tax if you live in the state of Florida, right? There's a lot of cool things going on. And so when you look at it from that perspective, Netflix was taking advantage of that. And they're taking advantage of lower, cheaper films. Look, I don't necessarily look at the blockbuster movies or internationally, but Squid Games was a good example of that from the Koreas, right? Saying, hey, look, we can make good movies.
This weekend I saw that whatever came out from the Disney Marvel world had good results. I was not up on it, what it was this time.
Yeah, and Dora, once again I fell asleep during the new one. It's not, and I'm a Star Wars fan, as everybody knows. I'm a huge. Luke Skywalker's on my wall. Picture me and Luke, Mark Hamill. But when I look at it from the next level of all of this, like, you got to think about the movie world, and we got to invest in that. Not right now. I think there's too much. Look, you can't keep shooting from the hip and saying we're going to tariff this and tariff that, and we're going to change the world here. You're going to bring the whole house off cards down if we're not careful.
Well,
right?
We didn't hear. No one was really out yesterday, or they didn't say anything important because nothing hit. My Wall Street Journal tickers, my Quasar Markets news, nothing really hit that mattered. So I thought that was surprising. You said there was a third thing, Steve. What was your third big takeaway?
Yeah, so Bill Ackman and Howard Hughes, he has now come around and talking about he has made the next Warren Buffett type Berkshire Hathaway, and he's doing that very quickly now. Oh, looky there. Yeah, you're good there. That's right. I think that this is very big for him. He loves Howard Hughes' acquisition company, and he's calling it a modern day Berkshire Hathaway.
I didn't realize that he had actually created it.
That is correct. He did, yes.
I did not realize that personally.
Pershing Square is his company, but he has started several firms like this. I don't want to say SPAC too loudly because then everybody will go back to it. I remember SPAC was a big deal 3 or 4 years ago, and I can't believe I'm talking about this again. I said it then. SPACs are nothing new. Special acquisition companies. If you don't know what SPAC is, all of a sudden it became the hot rage. Man, it's been around since the 30s. I mean, when I saw that I'm investing in a SPAC. Well, do you know what a SPAC does? You understand it? No, it's a brand new thing. No, it's not. It's been around for a long time. A SPAC is a company that's created that trades. It has cash. It's a trading vehicle so that it can go out to buy another company to change whatever the company that is looking to acquire. So Bill Ackman is very good at making SPACs. What he wasn't very good at the last time around when he did this was at acquiring a company. He needed to acquire something. He didn't do it, right? And so he just
spend that cash, right?
With a SPAC, you have a designated time frame of which you have to get this done, and he wasn't able to get it done. And so he dissolved the SPAC and gave everybody back their money, and that's fine. It doesn't really hurt anybody, but it's kind of a waste of time, right? So it would be like if a SPAC was created just to go after Quasar Markets and say we're going to acquire you, and great. All right, so but Bill Ackman is saying that this one, his Howard Hughes one, is that he is not just going after a SPAC to go. He's actually buying it so that he can actually become the next modern day, in his words, Berkshire Hathaway, so that he can acquire many companies and not just one. So I like this, and I think Bill Ackman's a very smart guy. He's very opinionated, so I don't, that's something you gotta take.
I mean, what I thought was interesting is they are purchasing 9 million shares at $100 a share, a 48% premium over the prior closing price.
And that's what Warren Buffett does with his Berkshire. He says, when I think my shares are undervalued, I buy my own shares back. But I don't think that's the case, right? Yeah.
And they're going to go from 37.6 to 46.9 of the outstanding shares, but Ackerman has agreed to only hold 40% of the voting right and to cap it at that. So Ackerman will become the executive chairman, and Ryan Israel, Pershing Square's chief investment officer, will become Howard Hughes' chief investment officer. But the CEO, David O'Reilly, will stay with the existing management team. Yeah, I mean, that's, and they're going to pay, Howard Hughes will pay Pershing Square a quarterly base advisory fee of $3.75 million plus 3.7% management fees on any increase in Howard Hughes market cap. So what's interesting is it isn't actually Pershing Square, it's Pershing Square Management. So it's him and the other
Pershing Square is the umbrella part of it, the overlaying, and then he's got things underneath him. So yeah, that's correct.
So it's going to be, it's basically he owns 40% of that company that's buying the 40% of theirs. So
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, Tyson's Food. I had that last week up there that they had announced they will comply with RFK Jr.'s stuff there and get all their synthetic dyes, which is great.
I think it's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely. Get rid of that dye stuff. I agree with it. No more red dye. I haven't eaten. Look, I love Fruit Loops, but I haven't eaten Fruit Loops in a very, very long time. I get it. It's not good for us, and then that's what we should be thinking about. So no, I like.
Yeah, and that follows. Remember, Pepsi was the first to announce that they're going to do the same. I mean, they don't have a choice. So it's going through, and it's in most other countries. So it's not like food companies are going to find a group of people saying, yeah, make my Doritos orange with something that's bad for me. So not surprised there. Steve, we've got a ton of earnings on track this week, the busiest.
Well, we do. That's for sure.
What's that?
We sure do.
Yeah. Biggest one today, Palantir. They are reporting free market. I haven't seen anything on it yet. Let me look here. Make sure it hasn't taken off yet. It just says they report today. It's still about neutral, so nothing there. Ford is also today, Steve. They come pre-market here this morning. We also have Berkshire. Like I said, Berkshire news comes out pretty much all day, and they really reported yesterday.
Hearing right now that Skechers, SKX, is going to be acquired by 3G Capital in a private deal. We've been talking about that forever. M&A is going to be huge. Look, and if we do see rates coming down, they can borrow it cheaper. They can start acquiring these companies. I like this is a very smart move by 3G Capital in acquiring Skechers. Skechers no longer is just a small company in shoes. They've actually got brick and mortar buildings too as well.
Yeah, they do. But that's a bad thing, right? Brick and mortar.
You know what? I'll tell you one thing.
That last month, it was a bad thing.
I agree with that, but I'm going to tell you, I was at the mall. I had to run by, and I was going to go. I was at Cheesecake Factory. Believe it or not, I had lunch.
Did you see my wife and my dad? Because they were there this week. They were there.
Very cool. What's interesting, Howard, is the mall was packed. It was jam packed. I went to a few stores.
I was at a Simon Properties outlets yesterday, big Cincinnati outlets, and it was funny. It was give or take on the stores, but they had people. There were people there. Most had bags. They weren't necessarily window shopping.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, it's a lot easier to shop in Florida where the sun is shining than it is where the weather is bad. But you know, I think that people just want to be out and about. They want to be in, you know, they're tired of being cooped up in their home. It's not about, this is post-COVID stuff now, right? But that when you look at it and you say, okay, are people getting ahead of, and that's what I said. I think people are getting ahead of the tariffs, and they're buying things. I saw over the weekend, I had my app up, and there's Sam's Club, and oh my God, an 85-inch QLED Samsung TV, 85 inches, was $500.
Yeah, they're basically.
I mean, that's just.
I told you I bought them a new monitor because Best Buy bought obviously too many widescreen monitors from wherever this thing comes from, and I was the lucky recipient of a $200 34-inch widescreen TV. You know, widescreen monitor.
You know, that cost me when 34 inches first came out. It cost me $2,000 when it first came out.
Like I said, I mean, this is it was a no-brainer. I'm like, okay, that's half is what it was in Christmas. Yeah, no, I know there's that, and I do think there's going to be, for those that, the same way I talk about looking for value in stocks, there are going to be things that people bought incorrectly. So there are going to be some really good fire sales on certain things, whatever it is, I don't know yet. But whatever,
well, when Apple comes out with a new phone and they've got 600,000 pallets of new iPhones that didn't sell, right? Because they're front loading them now. Hey, you know what? Boom. Yeah, Lucky Chart's asking, are we talking about before FOMC?
He meant FOMC, which he corrected himself.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my 2 cents on it. I think that right now we are going to be fairly down today. And then let's see how these earnings go. I think earnings are going to be what to watch this week. You know, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be trading Wednesday morning. Let's put it that way.
Let me ask this question. Will Mr. Chairman of the board, will he bend the will to the knee to the President of the United States? Because the President once again said, I am not going to force him out. I'm not going to do that. But I want him to lower taxes or lower rates. I just don't know. I don't know. This could be a very interesting meeting.
My thing is, I mean, again, they've been wronged a lot, but investors are telling you, no, they're not, because the 10-year just passed 4.33. The 30-year just passed 4.834, up a half a percentage point on the 10-year. And up almost a full percentage point on the 30, right?
Well, I think the problem here is, and we heard it from Japan too. Did Japan over the weekend also said the same interesting thing too? They said, look, if the trade deal doesn't get worked out, we're going to dump your bonds too. Yeah. What? They're now the largest holder of our bonds, so we could have a bond market issue. And you saw over the weekend, the president starting to back off a bit of the tariffs, saying, look, you know what? Trade between the United States and China is now non-existent. There's nothing coming out of China.
Empty boats coming into port. Empty boats returning to the U.S. with nothing in them. You know how much that costs a shipper?
Yeah.
Gas. I mean, Steve, you have a lovely little boat that you take out, and you know what gas costs just to go putting around for a few hours, moving a 100-ton vessel from China back to the U.S. Has got to be a pretty penny.
And you got to do that through the Indian Ocean, which is dead water, and you have to push it all the way through, right? So it's not a cheap. It's cheaper than flying stuff over, but yeah, no, it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's got me worried. So as for a sell-off, I do think I would be more apt to think we fall before FOMC than rise. That would be, I guess, my takeaway there. I don't know how Steve feels on it.
All right. Look, oil is telling you everything, right? I mean, $57 a barrel is telling me right now a recession is on the way. It's good for the consumer. It's bad for the oil companies. As we've talked about for a few weeks now, if we continue to do this, we're having a bad situation here. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, no, oil is pretty cheap right now. OPEC is dumping oil in the markets. They know what's up. They know the recession's coming. They're not happy at all. So I think, yeah,
So I've got to
oversupply.
ask: Is this a shot at the U.S. in ways that does it cost more for our oil to get done than others, and the others can live it out? And
Yeah,
I'm asking,
Saudi
I don't
Arabia.
know. I really don't
Saudi
know.
has most of their oil right there on the top, right? They don't have
Yeah,
shale
so
oil.
that's what I
They
was
got a
wondering.
big old
They're
thing.
just saying, hey, you know what? Again, this goes to the president, and sort of the stuff there. So that's what I was wondering.
Do you
Steve,
see the
over the weekend,
president
did you see our
attacking
man
oil?
Michael Saylor is back at it again? Another
Yeah,
1,895 things, says he's going to raise $86 billion. So we've now crossed where I am comfortable with this. And what I mean there is no one is meant to hold that much Bitcoin supply. And, I definitely have starting to get an issue myself with it. Because at some point, MicroStrategy's got to do something with that Bitcoin, or God forbid they get hacked, or God forbid something else. I'm not a big fan of Michael Saylor at this point. Steve Flanagan does chirp in.
Bring him in.
I don't know. That's what I'm asking, Steve. I honestly don't know what would be the reasoning. That's what I was trying to find out. I really don't know. Why OPEC is being so just increasing production.
So when did Steve Flanagan become the guy who is got the crystal ball out there and the global conspiracy issues going on here? Let's see what he has to say. Look, he's right. Nothing. Look, I get it. He's totally right. There is a happens without a plan. Yeah. Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know there. Ticks negative about 100. Advanced decline is down about 1,365. So we're looking at probably negative 3,000 on the open. Qs are down almost a full point again. Netflix, the Mag 7 is draining there. We see Nvidia down 1.35, Apple down 1.33, Microsoft, Google down 1 percentage point, Amazon down over 2, Meta down almost 1. Steve, any comments on whatever that guy's name is that's suing Meta? That they for defamation, or that ultra conservative MAGA guy?
WFC. Who cares?
I started on. I just changed the station. I really don't care when that guy speaks. Tesla down a point, and then like I said, Netflix getting hit the hardest here on the tariff talk, down down to 1,100. 1,114. So not a bad place to be down to, considering they were trading it in the 8s just recently. So we'll see what happens there as we get to open. I mentioned also, Steve, a little bit about Michael Saylor getting in there. Did see some nice weekly inflows into the crypto ETPs, about $2 billion in new net capital. It was the second largest on this year, fourth largest weekly inflow on record. That gives us a 3-week surge totaling about 5.5 billion in inflows. But I do have to point out that the bearers position, short Bitcoin products, saw a 300% jump in inflows. So people are expecting to see a little bit of a pullback. But I will also say, as it says here, investors hedge against potential pullbacks. We know that whales have been accumulating over the last 30 days. Whales are the ones that tend to protect themselves with hedges like this. So
the very second period that the United States government starts buying Bitcoin, that 300% of inflow, those short Bitcoin products will be leveraged to the hilt, will be absolutely be margin calls. It'll be like there'll be all kinds of stuff.
And I'm only pointing out these numbers because we thought it was a big deal when 585 million of inflows came the first week of the year, if you remember, and this has now quadrupled it. 2 billion in a single week. So again, looking strong. I wouldn't be, like I say, don't fade the Musk, don't fade the Saylor right now, but I just don't want to see that much centralization of Bitcoin in one place. I mean, wow, that would take them above Satoshi's wallet. Okay,
Dixie
we
down.
are open here, Steve. Let's see what we get on the open. Share my screen.
That dollar down to 99.51 again.
Yeah, it hasn't been able to get break and hold above.
Nvidia is about to go. I mean, only down a point here. I think, look, we've been talking about Nvidia for a while. I don't see much wrong here. I think that we go back up. I think the sellers over the weekend were silly. There we go. All about only down $1 now. So yeah.
Yeah, nice pump up on Nvidia here on the open.
Silver slipping here. Yeah.
Qs in general, algos are buying this morning. So algos like what's going on because they are definitely the first buyers here. And we see a little move to the upside. VIX at 24.11 too, Steve, raised up about 6.5%. It was a little higher even this morning, so pulling back down. Advanced decline, like I said, right around 33.07 right now. Tick is negative 500, so a little bit of selling still here, not on the Qs, more on SPY right here, downside on the SPY. Again, SPY's had the best 9 days, or the longest winning streak it's had ever, 9 days in a row. So, you also expect to see some of that, right? At some point, profit taking.
Yeah, I mean, it's been we talked about this, right? I remember a few weeks ago when everybody thought the world was ending, and now I said no, I'm buying, and now the world's not ending. So, yeah, I mean, but let's, the algos are in full swing right now. So let's let the algos do their thing for the next few minutes, and then we can look at it. But look at that, a high of the day now on Nvidia, only down 70 cents now. So look, I think they're buying the dips here. Let the bad news swing out a little bit. I would not be negative. Tick down 250 where it was down over 700 on the open. Going to
Berkshire now down 4.29%. Do you get a spot where you start to like Berkshire? It looks nice on the daily chart. Just hit the bottom of the linear regression.
No, I think you got to let it do its thing there. I think you got to let people that want to look. There's a lot of people that have been investing because it's only
he's the most iconic man in the business outside of you, like I said. So that's this is that he listen. No one, even Elon doesn't have as much to do with the stock as Warren Buffett has with this stock.
No,
whether it's true or not, I mean, again, he's got a big force of guys like Greg Abel that have been below him, like the man Charlie Munger, rest in peace there, Mr. Bitcoin. Hope he's sitting with Satoshi having a beer right now.
Yeah, and look, rat poison squared, right? Look, there's no one who had better quips than Charlie Munger, and he
definitely did, and no one went after it stronger. So I will give him credit; he was consistent to the end. There, Steve, one of your favorites on track tonight. What do you think about O going into earnings here? I'll pull up the chart for you.
I think O is going to do very well. Everybody paid their bills and paid their retail bills, real estate bills. So O will be doing well. Look, O is over leveraged because everybody is looking for the good place to get that good return and hiding money. But REITs are still hurting a little bit because everybody's at home, everybody's doing those things. They're not, but we're noticing that people are going out to the look. Netflix now down 4%. Netflix could is Netflix going to get back to that bet under 1,000 where we get to pick it up again? 1,100.
Yeah, I love it down there. I'm not going to lie. Again, I'm a believer that this one could provide value. The problem is it's just blown off top for the last 10 days since its earnings. So it makes it a little hard here. This pullback's almost just a healthy pullback.
Tick is now positive by 20 now. So look, and we're going. Yeah, I think that the first move on this markets was the wrong move. Stick to it. But I'll tell you, Berkshire Hathaway is still getting beat up a little bit here.
They're down 5.34. One of the bigger losers here this morning.
And don't think for a second when you have $380 billion that you're not going to buy your own stock back if you're down 5.5% here. So I would look. The problem with Berkshire Hathaway right now is that there's so many people that have been tied to Warren for so many years that just believed in Warren Buffett. Look, if I had told you at Berkshire Hathaway, the original shares, that was under $90,000 today, what's it at now? BRK.A.
I believe 800.
Correct. If you had bought it at 90,000, you would have 10 extra, almost 10 extra.
Yeah, I think it's 800,000. 765 on this pullback. It was over 800,000. It was at 812.
Right.
That's for one share.
But and look, the sell off here is a little overcooked because, quite frankly,
That's a little surprising there because again, these stocks, although what I'm
Warren,
curious, it's interesting on this sell off on the A. Believe it or not, there's still Robinhood allows people to buy. I don't know why you would, but people buy. They want to hold the A, so they buy.
the micro. Yeah, the micro. Listen, Warren hasn't been calling the shots at Berkshire Hathaway for a while, so I think the selling is a little stupid, to be honest with you. I understand why they're doing it.
I'm looking forward to see. Let's see what happens. I like it down here personally.
Yeah.
Do you think it could broach 498 if it could get to 4? If that gets below 500, I think it becomes a value. I think that would be just too far of a pullback. I think that the people.
I can't remember the last time
the board that he hasn't played. Yeah.
Berkshire Hathaway is one of those you just buy and you forget about it, right? Today you can't forget about it. I mean, let this shakeout happen. See where it ends up at the end of the day is what I think. And if you're a long-term investor and you want to buy Berkshire Hathaway, look, I like it.
You could get an opportunity. Yeah, you could get the opportunity. I like I said,
but it needs to shake out a little more than we're here. We're not quite there yet.
Bitcoin back above 94, holding up pretty well here. I do think the chart on Bitcoin looks weak here. I was sort of targeting a pullback towards the 92,000 level here is the key area to watch. First support around 27.9, but then a little bit below that if we get some weakness here today. Gold, Steve, again, you asked about it. Gold back up 2.32. So war. The threat of war.
I just sold a bunch of Berkshire Hathaway there. Whoa. No bids in Berkshire right now. Down over 6%. That's what I'm saying. Let it shake out a little bit more. You might get a pretty good deal here.
Be interesting. I haven't looked yet at Constellation that he invested in.
But Nasdaq's popping here a little bit now. I like that. Nasdaq moving here. And NVIDIA is about to go positive here. So that's what I'm saying. Look at that. Look at that selling in Berkshire. Oof.
I would say if you do think that Warren and his team still have their stuff, this is a nice looking spot for this Constellation that hasn't really moved on the news of their investment. Usually things skyrocket on news. It's, part of it is, the news is Berkshire. So the news hasn't really, people I don't think are digesting what they said yet outside of that, because that's, we saw the spikes even in Alta, right? That moved up tremendously on the news that he'd invested, and then it turned around and the shorts beat him out of the position. Tick positive 105, Steve, like you said. So
yeah, silver
Q's, Q's moving to the highs of the day here. My key thing has been that the Qs have nicely held above 466. That was that key resistance through most of that stuff, and then regained that 480 level that had been key resistance. So it's holding up. Resistance is turning to support here, at least it looks like. So that is good to see too. NVIDIA back at 114 here. Apple is still getting hit pretty hard, down 1.33%. Microsoft pretty flat on the day. Google slightly up. Amazon getting hit hard again. They'll be one of those ones with the streaming services that are down. And Netflix has recovered already nicely, about half of its losses. Only down 2.96% now. Had been as low as 11.07, now back at 11.22 here. Tesla down back at the 280 mark. So again, after its blow off top, it's sort of retracing a little bit here. We'll say even with the strength in some of these names we're seeing, overall, all 12 sectors of the S&P are so far opening on the negative. Looks like maybe XLP is the first one, which is consumer staples, to move to the north side here. We can get some move. Overnight or so far in Europe, pretty flat for the day on the stocks, sitting there up about 2 basis points. Was a good day overnight for Hong Kong trading, up 1.74%. Nikkei was slightly down about a 0.5 percentage point.
Wells Fargo CEOs on CNBC right now live saying overall health of the consumer is very strong.
I noticed that Bank of America CEO Moynihan basically said recession is not coming. So he and Jamie Dimon, we got to get in a little cage match.
Berkshire Hathaway down lows today.
He definitely I want that's interesting though to see the divergence there between the thoughts. Wow, Euro up almost a half a percentage point today, as we said. Dixie down, DXY down about a half percentage point. Those two tend to work, as Mr. Flanagan has pointed out so many times for us. Euro USD biggest component of the DXY.
Yeah, the dumping.
Going to hold that 94, so still saw a little bit of selling here, Steve. 93 and change. Again, I'm all happy and okay with it where it's at. Tick has gone slightly negative. Advanced decline really hasn't moved much, Steve. It opened up about 3,300 to the downside. It's now at 3,175, so it hasn't been a big move. Been pretty muted trading. Are we going to see that? And that might be my answer to you, Market Shark and Lucky Charts. I forget which one I asked. I think it was Lucky Charts this time. Again, we're not seeing much happen in the cash market. We're seeing so many of these moves done in the pre-market, Steve, over the last 2 weeks.
Well, I think, look, the question was asked earlier about the FOMC. Yeah, I think maybe we are waiting on that.
Yeah.
Did I say FOMC? FOMC.
It might be what we're waiting on here. Because that's, like I said, earnings just don't, they have their moves up and down, but then we tend to see them retraced. A lot of the things that were up, last week on good earnings have retraced a lot of them. So that's the other part. I also want to point out, like I said, too, about the craziness just in the market in general, right? Mining stocks beat up to heck last week, and now they're pouncing back this week. Yep. So that's the other part, is the things that are, that move to the upside seem to get sold off at certain resistance levels, and they don't seem to be able to break fully to the upside. Seen a lot more weakness to the downside here based on earnings and other news. PTCT down about 2174. I don't really like to talk too much about the healthcare companies because there's so much to go into play there. It could be one bad update on a trial that causes it. Same thing, TGTX. Down 14.5% today. IBRX down 8.66. Like I said, I don't discount them. I just know that there's so many different components to a health and biotech stocks that can cause them to go up and down that I don't really include them when I look at stuff in the morning. Netflix sitting there at 1122. That seems to be the spot is getting some rejections. Another one getting beaten down here today, Steve. BitDeer, which is a Bitcoin mining company, down 7.29. And their earnings was a few days ago, or is coming in a few days. So I don't know why they're definitely down. Wasn't really much news there. GH Guardian Health, that one you can talk a little bit more about because it's really medical and nursing services. A lot of your not hospitals, but rehabilitation centers and stuff. They're getting hit here, down 4.46% today, Steve, too. We talked about it. Warner Brothers down 3.45% here. Now 3.5%. Paramount down 2.19. Disney's bounced back a little bit, but still down 91.30, 91.23 here trading at. So again, the streaming services on the news of threat of tariff on imported movies. A lot of the Bitcoin miners getting hit pretty hard here today, Steve, and people not happy with MicroStrategy's purchase, I guess, down about 3.5% this morning so far. Robinhood down 5.35% here this morning also. So some of those getting beat up. I saw Coinbase was on here somewhere. IKBR also, and now they've recovered pretty nicely, but they were down over about 2 percentage points. Roku got hit hard on that news this morning also. There, Apple now down 1.89% here, trying to drop back below. They did drop back below 201.50 here.
TD Cowen says that price hikes from the tariffs will start to appear here in the May inflation report. That's interesting to me. So they're saying, I think that, and that's why I said, I think people are out there trying to get ahead, front run these tariffs, buying things now as opposed to later. Because we're starting to see now, again, Berkshire Hathaway down near the lows of the day. Popping a little bit of NVIDIA there. Okay, there we go. Come on, Qs. Let's get back up there. Okay, we're hearing now that Tyson Foods says signs are aligning for the U.S. ranchers to start rebuilding cattle herds and stop liquidating their herds. Okay, that's a good thing. We need to see that. If that's the case, then probably corn and wheat prices should go back up as farmers need that. Why were they liquidating their herds? It was very simple. We had some issues out there. People wanted steak. We saw that, right? but now they need to rebuild those herds. So yeah, interesting. Could see some live cattle futures pushing here, not feeder cattle.
Yep. Ruts down about.
Services PMI now coming in at 50.8. Expected there was 51.2. Last 51.4. Services PMI now once again coming in lower and lower. So that's not a good thing for services. We are a services country, so anything under 50 is a contraction. So this is not good news. This should be adding to the Fed saying we're going to lower. There you go. Berkshire Hathaway now hitting another low there, and Bitcoin coming up. That's right. I think that the chances of us actually getting a cut are pushing up a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. Q is pushing up pretty well, trying to struggling there to get across that 486 level here today. Excuse me.
503.60, and we just hit a new 502.82 with a
Yeah,
low
market
there.
shark. I agree with you that MSTR accumulation is a legit risk to the space. Yeah, it's just too much.
Yes,
he hasn't raised it yet, so we'll see. And it's going to be a fight. It'll be good for price on the short term. But and the other reason that I pointed out is what we saw was Grayscale, right? When there was the cash and carry trade on Grayscale, that's what drove Bitcoin's prices up that caused the crash in 2020.
Right.
So that's what we want to watch out for. I don't like one entity being so important to Bitcoin. So yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything from Jack Mallers and the boys over at XX1, excuse me, there. They should have a lot to say with Howard Lutnick and that. Also saw, Tether's trying to legitimize itself. They've said they're coming back into the US market. They're going to create a new coin for that. Then it won't be they don't really create new coins. They do an offshoot of Tether when they do it on different chains and everything else. So I thought that was interesting too. Tether made it clear that they negotiate. They work more with U.S. government or government agencies and police for enforcement of crypto sort of not regulation, but the way that they can seize any Tether at any time. So it'll be interesting to see. They kind of pointed out that Circle doesn't do a good job with that. So they're coming after Circle, which is kind of interesting because I forget who we saw just did I have that, I think, here. Hold it one second.
Yeah, Bitcoin now the lows of the day here, 93.7.
Oh, Ripple's trying to buy Circle. Oh. That's what it was.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Because that would give them their stable coin. So
right.
They've created their own, but it would give them one with a ton of liquidity. They realize that and what they're realizing is what banks are going to realize is you need to have people that want your stuff. So if BlackRock comes up with a stable coin like we've seen, the attraction to IBIT, then it works. But if some fly-by-night small regional bank comes up with a stable coin, no one will want to use it. Tick's gone slightly negative again here. Advanced decline has gone slightly better, 31.88. It's not a big move, 200 in the overall side of stuff. Like I said, we're just not really seeing much happen. Qs are the ones trying to pop, but again, it hasn't been able to break that 486. It hasn't even hit 486 yet. SPY, same thing. SPY is actually still trending slightly down. Mag 7, we've seen Microsoft and Google now go to the upside. Like Steve talked about, NVIDIA looks like it wants to slide to the upside. Meta also trying there. So we could see Mag 7 pull us up a little bit to make up for Apple now down 2.5%. Wow, Steve, getting hit pretty hard here. And now Netflix back down, back up to 131. So people are buying that dip there. Berkshire Hathaway down to 506.43. Did get down as far as 502.82.
Yeah, I mean,
Biggest move is Pony AI. Nice move to the upside here this morning. Again, Maple Beer, which is Instacart, which we know got hit real hard on its earnings. Now moving back up. Same thing, Crocs. So again, people are buying some of these dips. Crocs got hit pretty hard on its earnings. It
wait,
moved
you,
down.
do you have a pair of Crocs? You own a pair of
I
Crocs?
do. I live in Ohio. I live right next to the world headquarters of Crocs.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Within 2 miles. Oh, I love them. I have one pair that I wear to go to Kings Island. They're great to go in the wave pool.
That makes one of us.
Yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm that guy. No problem. I'm married with a 4-year-old. I don't care what I look like anymore. It's all about comfort and being able to give her a piggyback ride wherever she wants to go. So my Crocs allow that. Steve, I got to say, you know where people aren't going? Baseball games.
That's true. Yeah,
I went to the Cincinnati Reds and Washington Nationals game yesterday. We took the little one. I will say prices are still ridiculously expensive. Not that I didn't think they would be. Yeah, there was no one there. I was disappointed to see that. Yeah, I'm so used to living in Boston, where you can't get a ticket. You're so used to being a St. Louis Cardinals fan, the most loyal probably fan base in the world. And I will say that.
Yeah.
That and even in DC, the Nats are always busy till July. They die in July and August, and then they pick back up in September. The tickets.
These owners are getting greedy, right? I mean, then that's what's happening.
Expensive. I paid $46 a ticket for mediocre seats, because I got a 4-year-old who doesn't watch the game. So I'm not gonna, I used to sit with you down in the Diamond Club, but nowadays I'm like, that's a waste. She doesn't eat enough food. She doesn't drink. 4-year-olds, they're very, very stringent on not giving them beers.
Man, she's not doing shots of tequila at 6 years old. Okay.
So so the days of hurting the Nationals because I can eat and drink more than they can charge are over, and just some popcorn and everything else. I don't argue with that 85. I think we got some pretty decent support at 91 right now. That will give us our first sort of sense. It won't hold if it's beat down at that spot, but you'll find
we're going to 150,000. I'm not worried about these.
There you go. I'm not worried. He's right. He's got it nailed.
Oh, you think 85 is where we're going back to?
Well, I don't. I think 91. I said it. I think today we're gonna challenge that 91 on any bad news.
Berkshire Hathaway, some of those shorts and sales are covering here a little bit. So back to 508.
It's buy the dip mentality. I mean,
it is. I think buy the dip mentality is back. I think you're right, Howard.
Yeah, I'm not happy. VIX is still rising here, Steve. 7.5% up today. 24.28. We get back above 25. Watch out below.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, there's really not much.
Don't worry. I'm just saying. I mean, it's just what it's been, right? When we've seen the big moves up over certain levels on the VIX, it's caused a sell-off. That whatever it is, the algo is doing it, or just people that are scared. Either way, it's just been happening.
I see what President Trump is talking about the 2027 NFL draft being in Washington, D.C.
That would be awesome.
508.13 now.
I mean, they move it around. I can see them doing that. I mean, we know Josh Harris has a lot of sway with Roger. Tesla now down 3% here, continuing to get.
I think looking at gold too. I mean, what do you think about this issue with United Airlines canceling all those round trip?
Newark. I actually have. Funny you mentioned that. I meant to ask you that this morning.
That is a lot and I fly United Airlines a lot, and especially going up to Newark, up to New York. I do it a lot. I'm in New York, as most people know, quite a bit. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, 35 daily round trips on it, and they're again this. We're seeing CEOs go after the current White House and administration, and we're seeing ones that are just bowing down. So, to me, Bank of America, Wells Fargo bowing down. No recession coming. Nothing to see here. Jamie Dimon, United Airlines, Tim Cook, some of these other guys, not so much. And they say the FAA staffing shortages. What do you think about the FAA secretary going after the Department of Defense, saying, "Get your helicopters out of our sky"? Stop taking the VIPs for field
Well,
trips.
he was saying that why are the VIPs? Why are you carrying generals all over the place? I think you need to
Black card
understand.
services, yeah,
Yeah. You need to understand why the generals are moving around in those private planes on purpose, right? They are people who are those of us that live in DC. When I can tell you exactly why generals fly those planes, because they have a big target on their back, right? And they don't want to fly, or moving up and down the Potomac is not easy. Getting into a car is not easy. Especially coming out of the Pentagon. So that I understand why they're doing it, but it is adding a lot of it to the airspace in around National Airport. I'll never call it Reagan. But the Potomac in that area, as you know, Howard, living as long as we have there, that space is just packed with aircraft, helicopters.
Yeah, we go down again. When I worked on the rooftop over by the baseball stadium all day, I just watched the military helicopters go up and down. But they're supposed to be on that side by when that stadium is.
Here, we're saying pop here in the markets here. Look at the tick, just took off there.
Up 330, yeah.
Q's down the highs of the day, and we're seeing Bitcoin pushing here a little bit. Yeah, some buyers have stepped in. I think the sellers have got exhausted here. That was interesting. A little pop there.
I don't know. It still can't get to 486 on the Qs. So again, same as that's a triple top on me.
Mexico's economy minister says that business meetings with the textile industry is now scheduled for May the 14th. So for those of you who buy clothes, that's all of us. Mexico makes a lot of her clothes, by the way. So I think that they're going to have a big meeting to explain the textile industry. Cotton is a good example of that. So keep your eye on cotton prices. We're seeing a big pop here. 93, come on, 94,000 almost. There it is, coming up on Bitcoin. So get right back up.
Definitely seeing some buying here as the algos have sort of given up on the morning, and the retail steps in to do some buying hopefully here. So Q's trying again. Can it get 486? If it gets 486, it could go to the upside here. We could finally see that move. It's trying 485.95. It got to, so it's trying to push to the upside.
Shorts got ruined here. I said that this morning. I would not be short the market in crypto right now. This is not a good time to be short. And
the market chart says he sees support 92.272. Yeah, that's where it starts. I'm a little lower than that. Like I said, 91.8 is where I think that liquidity channel runs down there. 91.8 is, if it hits 90, that 92.2, it will wick down.
The reason that is the support there at 92,000 is because that's where Michael Saylor said he's buying it, right? He bought a whole bunch at 92 right? So he's not going to let his investment go down. I think he's going to keep buying down there.
Oh, he does. He doesn't. I mean, again, he doesn't do it that way. He just uses VWAP. I mean,
he don't care. He just buys whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, he does it foolishly. I mean, if he listened to us, he could probably save $1 million every buy.
But as I always say, Howard, what does it matter if we're going to $1 million? What does it matter if I bought it at 70 or bought it at 80 or bought it at 90?
As a stockholder in MSTR, it matters to me. Maximize my profits, baby. That's what I paid you to do.
MSTR stock in order to buy more. He's done that 3 or 4 times now. I don't know. I find him. I think he's methodical in his purchases. Right. I think he finds where the market slows down and he's okay.
He was methodical a couple of years ago. I think he has now, especially since the announcement of XXI, and he's just in a race.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's right.
Now it's just a race, so he doesn't care.
Tom Lee has said it several times. There's going to be a liquidity issue here where there's no liquidity in the crypto market. And
he's buying up all the OTC, so
Market Shark says he's short Ripple today. I met Brad Garlinghouse at the very beginning of when they were building out Ripple, and I had a good chat with him when I was at money.net, and a smart guy. I totally agree with him. For me, Ripple is all about adoption, and are we seeing adoption? And I think the answer is yes. I'll know a little bit more. I'm going to the Bitcoin conference in Vegas. I always go every year. I've been going there for many, many years. There's a reason why they call me BigBeat, right? I'm well known at the Bitcoin conference, but we'll maybe Howard, maybe you and I will do a show from the Bitcoin conference. Maybe I'll be there. We'll come up with the floor, but 94.2 now, 511 on
market chart. Yeah, you have downside. You're going to drop to 204 on Ripple. It's gonna hit the same support zone. 204.93, that area. I'd be shorting to that too.
94.2, I know, 94.3, and there it is, 94.3 now in Bitcoin. They break above that. They just did. I think that we go on up. Look at that. They
So
just
Steve, I got to
off.
ask you, you're Mr. Linear Regression. Are you trusting the daily linear regression that we topped out at, or are you trusting the 4-hour linear regression where we're at the bottom?
3 hour. I trust the 3 hour way better.
3 hour.
Yeah, because Wall Street uses 3 hour for ETF. So I think
we are, so based on Steve's theory there, we're ready to bounce back up to 98,000 here.
Yeah, well, I think the question is we know Wall Street uses 3 minute and 3 hour for reasons. Multiply, divide by 3, 9 divide by 3, 8.5 hours a day. I think that's where I think the ETF world of the algos is using the 3 hours. That's what Wall Street uses. So the U.S. ISM services PMI rising here a little bit here. Pull that up here. That's interesting. Got to 51.6 from 50.8 there. I hope you can see that there.
Apple is a low of the day, back below 200 here. So Apple
94.4
to drop here. On the upside, Nvidia at the high of the day, 114.18 here, nicely moving to the upside. Tesla getting hit a little bit. Meta nicely at its high of the day. Amazon right in the middle of its trading position. Google moving to the upside of its day, and Microsoft towards the upside.
So. And 94.5 was just hit on Bitcoin. So let's see if we can break that. I want to see Bitcoin breaking 100,000, and I think you said it could happen the next week or two. Last week you said that. So I don't know that I completely agree with that, but I think we could get pretty close. We've tried twice.
I said 98,000.
98,000. Sorry, you're right. 98,000. Yeah, my bad. But Mr. Rick Santelli is going off on ISM numbers here, I think, a little bit.
He's an aggressive gentleman.
The CB employment trends index now coming out the month of April, coming out at 107.5.
Love to see VIX has dropped back down 23.73 here, so move back and down to the downside nicely. So that's what we want to see. That could give us, as Steve said, the impotence here to move up. See, the Qs did break that 486, and now we've got some upside in us here. Nice. All
right, brother. It's 10 o'clock. I think we've been pretty good today on this trading.
Absolutely, my friend. I do think I don't know what we're going to see today. I don't know. I mean, most of the news is out. I think I'm going to be watching Palantir myself to see that. I think that's going to drive a lot of what happens here. I don't know what I can't imagine. It's going to be interesting to watch Palantir because they rely so much on the government for their stuff. Still, what are they going to say about future guidance and so forth? So they are right about at their all-time high here as they do it. Do they blast off? They did on their last earnings. They went from 83 to 100, gapped up there on their last earnings. Earnings before that, they gapped up from 40 to 48. Earnings before that, they gapped up from 23 to 27. So they have been an upward gapper in general on earnings. What are you thinking, Steve, there? I'm going to put you on the spot. What are you thinking with Palantir today?
I think the government has cut a lot. I think Doge has come in a lot. And I think the outside companies have been cut a lot. And I think Palantir is betting big on their government contracts. And I agree with that. But I don't know that they've been paid as much. So I don't think Palantir beats.
Okay. Well, we will see how that plays out. I wouldn't touch it personally. I'll sit this one out. I'm happy to do it. I would maybe play some kind of crazy option.
Chicken.
Well, no, I just was changing my mind because I actually am going to see about playing either a condor or a strangle, depending on which way
if you're doing that direction, I would definitely put a strangle on. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the things I'm thinking about. You think it blows up either way? That's what I'm trying to decide. Whenever we expect something to really blow up,
I think it blows up.
Stay natural, one way or the other. I'm going to ask everybody out there, what do you guys think? Market Shark, Lucky Chart, Stephen Flanagan, do we see a big explosion on Palantir, or do we see a goose egg? Let's see what they have.
I have a meeting to run too, Howard. I need to run,
I'll see you later, sir. And I'll take it out for us. Everybody, have a fantastic day. Be nimble out there. Don't be afraid. Lucky Egg says a goose egg. You're with me. Okay, let's go for it, buddy. Steve Flanagan says higher. We got it split. I love it when we got it split. Let's see what happens here. I think that their forward guidance is going to bring them down. I think their past EPS is going to be good still. I don't think they got hurt yet. So it'll be interesting. I hope, and I'm a big fan of Palantir, big fan of Mr. Thiel. So I'm gonna hope for you that are looking for the upside, but I think it does. I just feel that it's one of those when you got 8 in a row that you just kill it. There's always that one that gets you. So we'll see everybody. Have a great day.